watching Primetime. I'm Tamanna.
And my name is Ayush Alavadi. Let's have a look at today's headlines. Punjab National Bank says it will honour all bona fide commitments. The Enforcement Directorate searches 17 premises belonging to Nirav Modi and Gitanjali Gems.
Congress and BJP blame each other for fraudulent transactions at the Punjab National Bank. Congress says BJP tipped off Nirav Modi to leave India. BJP blames the UPA government for the fraud.
India doesn't need an EV policy, says Road Transport Minister Nitin Gadkari. Niti Aayog CEO Amitabh Kant says an action plan is being formulated instead.
Wholesale prices rise at a slower pace in January on easing food prices. India's trade deficit jumps to its widest since May 2013.
Indian markets end with gains for the second time this week. The Nifty closes just shy of 10,550. All right, let's start with the top story. A day after one of India's biggest banking frauds came to light, the focus is now on who takes the blame. Punjab National Bank said their efforts are on to protect the financial interests of all banks involved. Investigative agencies have begun cracking the whip, and political parties have wasted no time in joining the blame game. Vishwanath Nair joins us on the show to sum up the key developments. Vishy, over to you.
Right, Ayush. So, 5 major developments sort of took place over the course of the day because of what happened with the Punjab National Bank yesterday. Today, the MD and CEO of Punjab National Bank conducted a press conference where he said that they will be paying out any bona fide commitments to any bank who is involved in the system. Nobody knows what this bona fide commitment actually means, but that is something that will come up later. The second point that came up was that there was a blame game between Punjab National Bank and the other banks involved, where Punjab National Bank claimed that it will not have any liabilities, while the other banks claimed that all liabilities lie on Punjab National Bank and they are supposed to pay them out. The third important development that took place was raids conducted by the Enforcement Directorate. So they raided multiple locations over the course of the day of properties and offices owned by Nirav Modi and some other parties involved in this case, and they found a number of things, a large amount of money, about 5,100 crore worth of gems and jewelry from his office. That is what the Enforcement Directorate has said from its Twitter handle. Apart from that, the next thing that sort of played out was a lookout notice by the Central Bureau of Investigation. You see, over the course of the day, we came to know that Nirav Modi and 3 other people involved in this case, including his wife, his younger brother, as well as Mehul Choksi, have all left the country. They've all moved out to other places. So there is a lookout notice issued by the Central Bureau of Investigations against them. The fifth and the most important point that came out was a blame game between 2 political parties. As we know, Congress has been blaming the BJP for not acting soon enough, while BJP saying that Congress was probably sleeping on the wheel between 2011 and 14 when this whole scam sort of took place.
The big question also, Vishwanath, is now at the end of it, who pays for everything? There was a press conference today by the Punjab National Bank management. Banks, meanwhile, who are also within this purview, are wondering that who's going to pay up the dough?
No, you're right. So it's about 11,300 odd crore. So by all measures, one of the largest, amounts being contested between banks. And arguably, so there is a blame game, and there is sort of a ball being passed around, wherein Punjab National Bank says that it will only honor bona fide commitments. Now, according to the bank, there are investigations going on. The investigations will reveal the amount of money that Punjab National Bank should be paying these banks. While the banks on their part have been claiming that, they gave out this credit to people on the basis of an LOU, letter of undertaking, that was issued by Punjab National Bank. It was a legitimate piece of paper. It was a legitimate message that came from a bank branch. Which is why they gave out the money, and that now the bank is liable as and when the amount matures. As such, what we know from our sources is that banks have already placed requests with the Punjab National Bank to pay them out. At this point in time, Punjab National Bank is saying that we will wait for the investigation to get over. The MD, as you said, conducted a press conference earlier today. Let's hear what the MD Sunil Mehta had to say.
We will honor all our bona fide commitments. हम अपने सभी bona fide commitments का honor करेंगे और हमारे जितने भी bankers हैं और साथी हैं जो stakeholders हैं उनके साथ जो हमारे commitments हैं that we will be able to honor. Our bank credit exposure to these groups will be roughly 1,700.
Roughly 1,700.
We have not come out with any concrete plan to repay so far, but well, they are coming out with some vague offers which are under examination.
Well, former Deputy Governor of the Reserve Bank of India, R. Gandhi, and former ED of Bank of Baroda, R.K. Bakshi, say that the liability will be on the bank which issued the LOU, that is Punjab National Bank.
System of a documentary credit. It is always the LOC bank, issued bank, that will be responsible. The liability will be on the issuing bank, and because that is a system. And it is immaterial whether it was signed, so long as it is a genuine document issued by that bank, irrespective of the position that it was fraudulently issued by its employees. That difference will not fit in. It will the bank which will be responsible.
They don't know that they issued the LOU. As a bank, only those two employees know that the LOU has been issued. The bank doesn't know. If it were linked to the core banking system, or even if the two systems were disconnected, but it was an authorized transaction, the first thing will be to pass a contra entry showing liability of the banks on account of LOUs issued. On the basis of LOU, yes, it is their liability, but it is a statement made on the basis of facts till now known to us.
Well, the fraud at Punjab National Bank is turning into a nightmare for other lenders as well. All the banks holding LOUs from Punjab National Bank are in trouble. According to Bloomberg, Allahabad Bank has an exposure of 4,000 crore rupees to this particular fraud. Axis Bank has 3,000 crore rupees exposure, while both Union Bank and State Bank of India have 2,000 crore rupees of exposure. And of course, for more detail on this story, do log on to BloombergQuint.com. You will find every angle of the story covered comprehensively there.
So who is Nirav Modi, the man at the center of this $1.7 billion banking fraud? Have a look.
A quick insight into Nirav Modi, the man. Who is he as a businessman? What's the space and the kind of entirety of his empire? Sajid Mangat is joining us with more details on that, who's been going through a lot of official records to really put together the extent of fortune or business that Nirav Modi owns. Sajid, tell us.
Okay, if you look at the business empire of Nirav Modi, the entire holding company of Nirav Modi is called 5-Star International Public Limited. That's a company which is registered under the Register of Companies in Mumbai. The business of the entire group is divided into three aspects. One is trading in rough and polished diamonds. The second one is, providing unbranded jewelry for third parties. And third one is for the retail business, which it has under the brand name Nirav Modi. And it has roughly around 9 to 10 stores in India and abroad, through which it sells all its jewelry. The entire business is done based on 26 subsidiaries, which are based out of multiple jurisdictions, depending upon the country where he's sourcing his diamond from, or he's selling his diamond to, or the retail outlets present in. So it could be in France, Hong Kong, UK, US, UAE, one of the biggest country, and India, one of the biggest operations which is there after India is the UAE market for Nirav Modi. If you look at the financials for FY17, that's interesting because this company has a revenue of nearly 14,700 crores and a profit of nearly 582 crores. So it's not a small operation; it's a very big operation of Nirav Modi, and diamond business by far is, it's supposed to be a high value and high turnover business. There, so in that sense, he's one of the biggest players in the diamond trade in the country. In 2017 is when he tried to expand his business. When he expanded his business, he sold some stake to some of the offshore companies, roughly around 4 to 5% stake he sold. That valued his company to roughly 6,900 crores. And this is one of the values which he has mentioned to PNB, stating that the five-star international is valued at over 6,000 crores, and he will be using that by selling that company he will be paying the bank, and that's what has been talked about in the media and in the various communication that he has done with the bank, saying that he will be selling his company to pay off the company there. So that's something. But one of the interesting thing is how over the last 1 year he has started bringing in good marquee names into the company. You have some of the some old corporate bigwigs who have started becoming independent directors on Five-Star International. People like Suresh Senapati, who's a former CFO and retired now, but he's on the board of he was on the board of Five-Star. There are other former Pepsi executives who was on the board of Five-Star. We understand that they may have resigned in the last month or so, but they were brought in as independent directors because the purpose was to ensure that he projects the company as a corporate entity and he's able to raise money from international investors to expand his business, because he was expanding his retail business in a big way. He opened a couple of stores in India and then in UAE and other markets which is there. So India is one of the big markets where Five-Star Diamond International, which is a company which is involved in this entire PNB fraud, the revenues were roughly around 1,900 crores for FY16 and 72 crores of profit, but UAE was the biggest business and biggest business from the profit point of view. So 3,000 crores of revenues used to come from UAE and nearly 200 odd crores of profit used to come from there. So it's a big business. It's spread over multiple jurisdictions.
Enough to pay back if he needs to?
I don't know whether it's
No, that was a trick question.
That's a trick question. 6,000 crores is the valuation which the merchant banker has given the company. For Five-Star as a holding company. Right. You have ED today tweeting that they've got stock worth 5,100 crores. I don't know how they managed to calculate that 5,100 crores of stock, but it's still something which I think there is an attempt to say that, okay, we have enough stock to recover the money.
Don't panic. Okay, Thank you so much for that, Sajid Mangat there. Where the investigation takes this case remains to be seen, but clearly political parties aren't waiting for that. The Congress has launched a scathing attack on the government over the PNB fraud. The party has said that letting businessmen and corporates run away with public money has become a norm under the current government. In a tweet, Congress President Rahul Gandhi highlighted the presence of Nirav Modi with the Prime Minister in Davos in January this year, and he compared his exit from India on the 1st of Jan to that of Vijay Mallya's. The BJP has hit back strongly and asked why the Congress did not take any action on the matter from 2011 to 2014 when the party was in power. Remember, this entire fraud has been going on from 2011 onwards. Here's what IT Minister Ravi Shankar Prasad had to say.
26 जुलाई 2016 को प्रधानमंत्री जी को दस्तावेज और सबूतों के साथ एक और व्यक्ति नीरव मोदी के खिलाफ और उनके मामा मेहुल चौकसी के खिलाफ एक कंप्लेंट फाइल होती है और कहा जाता है कि ये 42 एफआईआर हैं, हजारों करोड़ रुपए का बैंकों का कर्जा है। प्रधानमंत्री जी का कार्यालय 26 जुलाई 2016 को उस कंप्लेंट को एक्नॉलेज करता है, रजिस्ट्रार ऑफ कंपनीज को एक्शन लेने के लिए भेज भी देता है, पर ना मोदी जी कुछ करते, ना प्रधानमंत्री कार्यालय कुछ करता.
No one shall be spared in the banking system who has sought to derail the ordinary banking system to help Nirav Modi and company. And when I say so, this will be regardless of the status and stature of the concerned official.
And of course, it's become a political blame game, but it's important to understand the implications of the entire case. We'll be doing that in more detail up ahead this evening on Primetime Debate. I'll be joined by Tarun Bhatia from Kroll Securities, A.K. Bhattacharya, who's editorial director at the Business Standard, and of course, Gopal Agarwal from the BJP and Mohammad Khan of the Congress. We will look at all of those allegations and how serious they are. So do tune in for that conversation. And Union Minister for Road Transport and Highways, Nitin Gadkari, has ruled out the need for an electric vehicle policy for India. His comments come at a time when automakers want the government to come up with a clear plan for electric vehicles. The CEO of Niti Aayog, Amitabh Kant, has also concurred. Kant said that technological innovations are taking place in the auto sector and that the government is making an action plan on EVs, which will be given to all ministries.
अभी क्या बाकी रहा, जो साहब ने किया अभी सब ओपन हो गया, अभी कोई पॉलिसी की जरूरत नहीं. देखिए ऐसा है एक्शंस चाहिए. हमने जैसे स्टार्टअप की किया था, पॉलिसी नहीं बनाई थी, हमने सारे एक्शन प्लान बना दिया. एक्शन प्लान बना के हर मिनिस्ट्री अपना अपना एक्शन कार्रवाई करना शुरू कर दिया और हम लोग ओवरऑल उसको मॉनिटर कर रहे हैं. पॉलिसी की ऐसी कोई ज़रूरत है ही नहीं.
Well, in fact, electric vehicles was the buzz at the 2018 Auto Expo in Delhi. Here's a quick snapshot of what manufacturers expect from the government on the electric vehicles push.
We thought it was a very courageous statement to go fully to 100% by 2030, because even highly developed, and with highly developed I mean not the typical definition but the electricity definition, highly developed electric markets are not taking up such courageous statements.
Right.
For us the concern is simply we need to understand better in form of a policy, what is the government thinking, what are their plans? And with that I mean specifically what are their plans where the energy will come from.
Right.
Can this energy be cleaner, and it should be cleaner than the existing vehicles, which at the moment it is not.
Right.
You still have challenges with the production of electricity in this market specifically. Then the other issue actually for us is an environmental concern. Yes. What happens with the batteries? Where is the concept for recycling?
What are the speed breakers in electric vehicle? I think three, according to me. First is the cost. Cost of battery is high. It is not affordable as of now. Second is range anxiety. People should know how long it can drive, etc. And third is charging infrastructure.
All right, R.C. Bhargav, Chairman of Maruti Suzuki, joins us on the phone line now to speak more about this. Thank you so much, Mr. Bhargav, for speaking with us on Bloomberg Quint this evening. We just played out what the minister said and then Amitabh Kant said about the electric vehicle policy. Just to recap, Nitin Gadkari ji says that there's no real need for an electric vehicle policy. Amitabh Kant says an action plan is already in place. What are your comments to this?
Well, I agree that far more important than policy is an action plan. I think in India, in most areas, we need action rather than things written on paper, because policy is all paper. So more important, therefore, would be an action plan which is implemented. So I agree with the minister's approach and Amitabh Kant's approach that we should have an action plan and implement that action plan.
Okay. I think rather than whether we call it a policy or an action plan, what should be crucial perhaps is what is in that plan.
Exactly.
Does the auto sector right now feel that there is enough clarity and guidance in place from the government side to implement their goal of turning completely electric in another decade?
No, I think the actions which are required to be taken are still evolving. I don't think there's finality in all the actions which are required to be taken to push the electrification program at a faster rate. And a lot of information is being collected, a lot of work is being done to do that. So I think as we go along, the action plan will keep getting refined and will meet the requirements of the new technologies which may develop, the changes in technologies which may happen even for EVs. And the action plan has to be modified to go along with all those changes. So I don't think there can even be a frozen action plan.
Right, Mr. Bhargav, and it's interesting because we were at the Auto Expo last week and some very interesting concepts by Maruti and other manufacturers as well. And electric seemed to be the theme at the Auto Expo as well. But so from our conversations with a lot of manufacturers from around the world, they seem to suggest that while they do have the technology in place, they seem to be adopting, at least the foreign manufacturers seem to be adopting a wait and watch approach when it comes to electric, all contingent on a policy by the government. So do you think that wouldn't augur well for this electric push if there wasn't a policy or an action plan per se?
No, but you see, when anybody says that they have technology,
yes,
Hello? Oh, we seem to have lost that line with R.C. Bhargav. But we will try and get him back on and complete that conversation. R.C. Bhargav there speaking on whether an action plan is required or what is in it. And very interesting take, Ayush, because we played out those conversations you had with car makers at the Auto Expo where you were last week. And let's not get into, fiddling about whether it's called a policy or it's called a plan.
Fair enough.
The idea is, do car makers know what the business is going to entail? That's the key question.
Yeah, and I think he's back with us. And yes, Mr. Bhargav, I'm sorry we lost you there, but my question being, essentially, everyone seems to be adopting a wait and watch approach. So do you think that this doesn't augur well, this sort of ambiguity when it comes to this EV policy? Earlier, the issue was whether we're going to look at direct charging or battery swapping. These were nuances which were being discussed. Now you're saying, now when the government says no EV policy is needed altogether, let's call it an action plan or an EV policy, do you think this doesn't augur well when foreign manufacturers are also waiting really to come up with electric solutions for the Indian market?
Right.
We've been a little unlucky, but my point was, Tamanna, there were 3 or 4 things that the top manufacturers said. One was, of course, well, in terms of infrastructure, which way are we headed? The direct charging, fast charging, battery swapping, big debate. It hasn't worked in some countries, it has. Public infrastructure, private infrastructure, charging stations as well.
The hows and whys, this will all work out. I'm sure there will be a plan, but you must finish that conversation with R.C. Bhargav, and I'm sure you can catch details of it later on BloombergQuint.com. But let's talk about the markets today. Indian markets ended with gains today. Both the Nifty and Sensex posted slim gains as markets recovered. Neeraj Shah here gives us a gist of the day's trading action.
Well, India VIX was volatile in the session today, and that only summed up what the trade was like in trade. So just look at what happened to the key indices firstly. The Nifty and the Sensex optically ending about 0.4% higher, but not before they actually slipped back into the red midway through trade as well, just about when the PNB press conference was happening. Actually, the mid caps and the small caps couldn't even come back from there. So the broader markets had a fair bit of pain. The small cap index more so 1.5% lower. Banks were the center stage of all the action, and no surprise there. While the Nifty 50 ended in the green, PNB about 12% lower, and the Nifty Bank 2 ended marginally in the green, which is actually a good sign. But PNB dominated conversation for almost all day today. Contrasting fortunes for some of the private sector banks. Axis Bank ending flattish after having a volatile choppy day. ICICI Bank ending the day at the highest point of the day, up about 3%. So good recovery for this one in the session. It was a Metallica of sorts. A clutch of metal names did very well. On the index, we had Hindalco and Vedanta doing extremely well. So good going. These were amongst the top 5 gainers on the Nifty today. Of course, BPCL helped as well, and that stock ended almost at the day's highs, crept up in the last 45 minutes of trade. So good going for BPCL in the session today as well. Moving moving on to the broader end of the spectrum, just a very few pockets that I want to mark really aside of all that happened in the Nifty. Yes, the broader end of the spectrum, there were stocks in the mid-cap space, in the oil and gas space, which did okay, but a lot of pain in the NBFC pocket in particular, and that's something you need to watch out for. Some winners included stocks like Bombay Dyeing and Delta Corp, which ended at the day's high, so good going for these names, but by and large, the broader markets had a fair take of red.
All right, shifting focus to the economy. Wholesale price inflation for the month of January has eased to 2.84% from 3.58% in December. An easing of food and food articles inflation helped rein in the WPI last month. The inflation reading for November was revised higher to 4.02% from 3.93%.
Now, India's trade deficit in January widened the most in over 4.5 years. The trade deficit, which is the gap between exports and imports, rose by a whopping 65%. Exports rose 9.07% as India continued to ship engineering goods, organic and inorganic chemicals. Petroleum and crude oil imports also continued to inflate India's import bill, which went up by over 25%.
All right, that's all the time we have on Primetime. But Primetime Debate's coming up, Tamanna. What's up on Primetime Debates tonight?
Well, the biggest story right now is what's happening in Punjab National Bank.
Yes.
We've looked at pretty much every angle on it on Bloomberg Quint. What I'm looking at this evening on Primetime Debate is how and why it has become such a big political hot potato.
Yes.
Do the charges on both sides really stick?
Yes.
And what's the real story? So that's what we're going to talk about. I'm going to be joined, of course, by the BJP and Congress spokespersons. But apart from that, I have A.K. Bhattacharya, Editorial Director, The Business Standard, and Tarun Bhatia from Kroll Securities, who specializes in how these investigations of white-collar crime take place. So he'll come in with those inputs. Do tune in. I'm right back.